One thing that we've seen over and over and over again is the fact that we frequently need to access multiple tables, multiple columns, do aliases, and so forth in order to get our data put together in the format and the structure that we're looking for it in. This is where views come into play. The goal of View, as we're going to see, is to be able to help simplify a database structure, making it easier for us to access the data that we are in need of. Now, views look and come together a little bit like this. A view is really, when you get right down to it, a select statement designed to act as a table. In fact, usually the way that I wind up describing this to somebody who's new to views is I basically just say, hey, it's a balled up select statement. That if you know how to write a select statement, you know how to create a view. That basically all you have to do is put create view on top of it. Congratulations, you've created a view. Now, the goal of a view is, first of all, to simplify complex table structure. That I might have my database split across multiple tables, they might have some really weird, obscure names, things like that, and we want to make it easier for our users, for our reports, or maybe just simply us to be able to access that data. The next big reason to create views is to enhance security. One of the nice things about creating a view is that I can give you permission to the view, but not necessarily give you permission to the underlying data. So that way I can better control what it is that you're able to access and how you're able to access it. Additionally, this can potentially help increase performance. Because one of the things that we can do with a view is we can create what's known as an indexed view. An indexed view, in a nutshell, is a view where all the data inside of there is written out to disk. Normally with a view, it's just the select statement, but with a materialized view, or an indexed view, the data will actually be written out to disk. The last big advantage to views is the fact that if I'm calling the view, the underlying table structure could change, and as long as the view is kept up to date and still returning back the exact same data in the exact same format that I'm expecting it in, I don't have to be any the wiser to the underlying changes. There are a few little limitations on creating views. First of all, you are limited to no more than 1024 columns. Little tip from me to you. If you're creating, well, frankly, any select statement, and you're worried about hitting triple digits on the number of columns, let alone 1024, I would probably bet that you might want to take another look at what it is that you're doing. I'm just saying. You're also going to notice that we're not allowed to have an order by statement without a top inside of a view. Now, the reason for that, the rationale for this, is the way that a view is executed. That, again, it's just simply a balled up select statement. And what you're going to notice is that it's going to be embedded inside of another select statement. So on my outer select statement, I could say select whatever from view, order by, and then order by a particular column. Well, now what's going to happen is it's going to execute my view, and if my view has an order by, it would sort by that. And then it's going to execute the outer select statement, and if that had an order by, now we're going to be sorting our data twice. So to avoid that, the rule is no order by inside of a view. The exception to this is with a top statement, because a top statement is pretty much worthless without an order by. Real quick side note for anybody who's maybe coming along from 2000 or has maybe heard this trick in the past. There used to be a trick where you could say select top 100% and then do an order by inside of a view. Yeah, that doesn't work anymore. You're also going to notice with a view that it's a single query returning a single table. You're also not able to utilize a select into. The reason for that is that the design of a view is to be read-only. So we don't want any modifications behind the scenes. And we're not allowed to reference or otherwise work with temporary tables or table variables. We also have limitations on modifying view data. Now, for the most part, this is pretty okay because with a view, what I'm really looking for is read, not necessarily write. I've got other things that I can use for write. But if you are wanting to update the underlying data that a view is using, there are a couple of things that you want to be aware of. Number one is that you're not able to issue an insert, update, or delete statement on a view that would be updating or modifying multiple tables behind the scenes. So if I'm joining two tables together, I issue an update statement against that view, and that update statement needs to update both of those tables behind the scenes. That's not going to be allowed. Additionally, if we're performing pretty much any form of an aggregation with a group by or otherwise, we're also not going to be able to modify that data. The reason for that is because the view isn't going to know where to put my data. It is worth noting, however, that through the use of an instead of trigger, you could allow for updates even if those conditions would be met. The reason for that is because I can capture whatever it is that you were trying to do and convert that into the appropriate individual statements behind the scenes. A couple of real quick best practices on creating views. First up, always use two-part naming. Now, this is true universally, but this is especially important whenever you're creating any object. And actually, this would include stored procedures, functions, triggers, etc. And the reason for that is because depending on what somebody's default view is set as, they might not get the expected results. The second big best practice is not to join views together. Always go to the underlying data. The reason for that is because your views are, again, just simply balled up select statements. So if you start joining views, what can wind up happening is SQL just loads up to the copy of data from each view and then tries to join that together. And that can really wind up slowing things down. You're not necessarily going to get optimal queries there. So if you are going to be joining things together, always go to the underlying data. Also, when you're creating your view, still use good query writing practices. Don't use select star and only return the required data.